agendas and vendettas ended up eclipsing some of the work that should have been done. I don't personally know Susie Wiles, but my reputation thinks she'll be a competent manager in that role, but there was also before who once held that role and couldn't get some of the infighting in the former Trump administration under control. And then you introduce this outsized influence of one of the most powerful, wealthiest men on the planet, Elon Musk. That could get complicated. I've also never known Donald Trump to share a stage and equal spotlight with someone. In the day today, Elon Musk might be more powerful than him. The day he swears the oath of office, he is more powerful than Elon Musk. So I'll see how long this relationship lasts, what it looks like, but it could get complicated.
I like that. It could get. Harris and I were together for the first time since the election, and I saw something you wrote on social media. So let me just share it and give you a chance to comment. Joe Biden has been amazing. He should fulfill one last promise to be transitional. Biden should resign and make Kamala Harris the first woman president. They turn tables on Trump, keep Kamala from presiding over January 6th, make it easy for the next woman to run.
Yeah, I'm super popular with Biden right now. So let me just say, I think this is right. Democrats have to stop paying attention to the rules so much. Nobody cares about the rules as much as we seem to, right? And when Republicans want things, they just go and make it happen. Democrats wanted to make Kamala Harris president of the United States. Joe Biden can do that. He can be the transitional figure that makes it happen. I don't know if the vice president thinks I'm in the right. I'm sure she doesn't. If you got to the question, she would say no. But the reality is, Democrats want this to happen. And if nothing else, we've got to stop just being worried about what everyone will think or what the norm said. We've got to go for what it is that we want and then let the chips fall. That's what Americans, I think, probably respect about this guy. They respected it about Bill Clinton. They respected it about George Bush. They will respect Democrats and Democrats start going for what we want and not paying attention to the etiquette.
You may be shocked, but I believe that David Urban agrees with you that Kamala Harris should have the first female president, but in a slightly different way, Dave.
Well, listen, Aaron, I think that Jamal's exactly right. Joe Biden got elected to be a transitional president. Remember when he ran, he said, I'm going to be a modern, I'm going to bring the country together, I'm a transitional president, bridge to the future. And then once he got in there, John lives, right? He should have honored his budget if he ran on, and he should have said, I'm not going to run for re-election, and then had a process, and Kamala Harris may have come out of that process early on and been the nominee and been a stronger nominee. So I don't disagree with Jamal that President Biden should step down. I think she stepped down about a year ago.
But for the record, David, Donald Trump still doesn't have many votes Joe Biden got in the last election.
Well, I want to go to
$81 million.
I'm going to leave it at that. David Urban said that she should have president a year ago. We'll say president now. I won't take it on that rare.
I said Joe Biden should step down a year ago.
Yes, right. No, I know you can put it on the framing, but all right. Thank you all. I appreciate it. And next, Trump and AOC. They could not be more different, right? I mean, you look at them. But guess what? There are voters who voted Trump on the top of the ticket and AOC for Congress. They are out there. Guess what? Plus, Trump said he would end the conflict in Ukraine on day one. So what do Russians think? We have a special report tonight from inside. Plus, cracking down 100,000 Chinese students ride their bikes for 40 miles together at night. They said in search of dumplings, but the Chinese government is convinced that it's something very different.
ever-changing weather around the world, ever-diverse terrain and roads across the world. With Kumho Tire that has conquered all. There is no road you cannot go. Go with Kumho. Kumho Tire.
On the next tech review, we're on the move with cyborg insects, microdrones, and speedy robots. Watch as we one-on-one with these tech marvels. Explore how researchers early ways technology can aid search and rescue efforts. I'm on campus with the next generation of animal-inspired robotics and their student creators.
Tech for Good, Saturday only on CNN in association with Samsung.
If you can keep your head when markets all around you are losing and your policy away through, if you can trust your instincts on when to buy, sell, or wait, and don't be tired by the waiting, if you can trade and not make money your master, meeting triumph and disaster equal me. If you can run with the wolves and not be afraid of the bears, treating both imposters the same. For when we come together, we will make sense of it all. Then the business world will be yours and all that is in it. And what is more, you will be loved. For you are indeed watching Crestman's business.
In the hub, the east meets west, CNN outlines every place to find the facts. This is where the stories go. Politics, business, culture, real life. As the pace of change moves faster, we ask the important question. What is the truth? This is CNN Outlook. They're everyday people doing extraordinary things in their communities and in our world. Who should be the 2024 CNN Hero of the Year? It's your chance to weigh in, meet this year's honorees, and discover the life-changing work they're doing. Then cast up to 10 votes a day, every day. Visit CNNHeroes.com.
Tonight, the Trump and AOC voter. Not only do these voters exist, several of them are speaking out tonight directly to Progressive Congresswoman to explain why. She asked, she said, why did you do this? And they're telling her, one of them saying, well, we are focused on the real issue people care about, similar to Trump populism in some ways. Another saying, well, it's real simple. Trump and you care for the working class. And a third saying, quote, I feel like you and Trump are real. Up front now, Congressman Dean Phillips of Minnesota challenged President Biden for the 2024 Democratic nomination, said that President Biden should have set aside, have a primary there. Here we are. So Congressman, can I just start with the Trump AOC voter? When I heard that, and maybe some others watching heard that, they said, wait, what? So who are these individuals? What do they care about? AOC reached out to find out. I shared a few of their responses. You, I know, have been hearing a similar lead about maybe the overlap, Venn diagram overlap between people who seem so opposite like Trump and AOC. What do you see there?
Well, Aaron, I have to say, as someone who's traveled the country and got my eyes and ears and heart open, there's a palpable, massive disaffection in the country. And here you have Donald Trump and AOC that may have very different political perspectives and backgrounds, but they're both disruptors. And there's a massive appetite right now in our country to disrupt a political system that increasing numbers of Americans are really disgusted by. And I think it's not that surprising. People are more focused on disruption than even policy. And I think it's time for probably my side of the aisle, particularly, to wake up to that reality. And the status quo is not appealing to most Americans. So, not surprised at all. And you're right, they both are looking out for the working class, at least that's the perception. And that's very powerful right now, as Bernie Sanders noted in his note to the country just a couple days ago.
Actually, I'm going to play something Bernie Sanders said in just a moment, but I want to ask you first about the Democrats who did outperform Kamala Harris in states or districts that Trump won. Some of them actually even won those, right? And so those are the ones who are pointing out who are they and why. And most of them had something in common. And I was speaking to one of them on Congressman Lecter, and she was saying, look, the border really mattered, and acknowledging that to people mattered, and she put it in campaign ads. And a lot of those campaign ads from those winners spoke to voters about the border crisis.
In the Marines, we always say, if you fail to plan, you're planning to fail. Well, Arizonans know, on the border, there is no plan.
The far left ignore millions illegally crossing the border. I'm fighting for what matters to us, like stopping illegal immigration.
Tammy's working with law enforcement to stop the flow of fentanyl. Tammy voted 32 times to strengthen the border. Don't believe the attacks. It's Tammy Baldwin I trust to keep Wisconsin safe.
I'm Tammy Baldwin, and I approve this message.
Just so different from what was on the national stage. And in fact, some people watching maybe like, wait, what? Those were Democrats? Well, they were. And those were the successful ones.
It's so true, Aaron. So many of us were trying to call attention to this so long ago. And yes, though, by the way, just about every Democratic Senate candidate, any American congressional candidates, they all formed Vice President Harris, particularly those like Jared Golden in Maine, Marie Perez. They represent their districts by keeping their ears to the ground, listening to people and understanding what's important to them. And right now, the Democratic Party does not have a very efficient mechanism by which that information can be delivered and acted upon. By the way, in the economy, I'll make this really quick. No surprise when Donald Trump sent checks directly to Americans at a time when very few could spend them because the economy was shut down. Tens of millions of Americans had more money in their bank accounts than any time in their adult lives. So let's say it was $5,000. Now they look at their bank account, they have $1,000. Prices are higher. Democrats had a year, 2 years to simply acknowledge that, explain it, and create a proposition to overcome it. And same with the border. It has been a disaster for decades. It's not new. It's keeping ears to the ground and finally waking up to the reality and using invitation, not confrontation or condemnation to win elections. It does not work.
Said. Yeah, you mentioned Bernie Sanders. I just want to ask you something about him because he was talking at Kristen Walker and NBC did a great interview with him this weekend, and she asked him about these calls on the far left now who are Sonia Sotomayor, the Supreme Court justice, to step down. Basically, so President Biden can not be a replacement and not President-elect Trump if something were to happen to her. She's only 70 years old. Anyway, this has been out there, right? The Democrats have heard. So Senator Bernie Sanders was asked about his recent.
Should Justice Sotomayor step down to allow President Biden to recruit someone who's younger? She's only 70 years old. Is that something that you would support? Do you think she should step down?
No, I don't.
Have you heard any talk of this?
Okay. I don't think it's sensible.
I thought it was interesting just how he answered it. There was sort of a resignation and an upset that the thought of it sitting out there and how much it was. Do you agree with him or not?
Well, look, I think Sotomayor is a wonderful jurist. Age 70 is not that old in this day and age. And she's also a type 1 diabetic. We all saw what Ruth Ginsburg did to build her extraordinary career, create an amazing legacy, to have it all essentially washed away by sticking around too long, and someone who believes so deeply in term limits and creating new space and place for other Americans to participate, and recognizing the consequences of sticking around too long. If Supreme Court Justice Sotomayor, her health situation is different than some may recognize, I would hope that she would proactively step aside so that, yes, Joe Biden can appoint some, at least try to appoint somebody else, because we have fallen short way too many times, we Democrats, by frankly sticking around too long, evidenced by Joe Biden himself. So yes, we do have an issue. If her circumstance makes the next 4 years complicated from a health perspective, I hope she would consider doing it. I don't think it's Bernie Sanders, me, or Joe Biden's decision. It should be hers. I just wish more people in positions of power would ultimately put the country ahead of their self-interest. If we did, we'd be a lot better off on both sides of the aisle.
Right. Congressman Phillips, I appreciate you taking the time, as always, to tell me like you see it. It's great to see you, sir.
Thank you, Eric. Be well.
And next, for the first time since Trump's win, we'll take you inside Russia. You'll see how Putin's allies reacted to Trump's victory, what they think this means. Plus, John Avlon is back out front. He was out there every single day on the campaign trail for 9 months straight, face to face with voters. So what did he learn? And is he still hopeful?
When you take a step back and you see the Earth in its entirety, you understand that it's just an oasis in the cosmos. All around is nothing, no life, just blackness, emptiness. And there's this blue ball with everything we need to sustain human life and life in general, which is absolutely fragile. And it makes you want to cherish the Earth a little bit more. I'm Thomas Pesquet, I'm an astronaut for the European Space Agency. You can see a lot of the consequences of human activities from space. Some of them climate change, some of it just plain old pollution. It is definitely my experience of being in space and seeing it with my own eyes that made me want to advocate against climate change. I'm an ambassador for the Food and Agricultural Organization of the United Nations. We're trying to limit the production, the use of plastic, the production of waste, and so we came up with edible packaging, which is just such a fantastic and simple concept. We need foam to protect everything from shocks during launch into space. So what we did is we turned that foam into food. It's like gingerbread. Now our packaging is at the same time a source of food. It reduces the need to send cargo up. If we set ourselves on the right path, there's nothing we cannot do. We built that unbelievable facility in space. We're using it every day. I'm optimistic for the future. If we can make a space station fly, then we can save the planet.
How about the songs with open date?
Try to be global and we try to be smart. But I want to hear authentic voices of people who are passionate, who are intelligent, and that's the consistency that we try to get at. For Reads Economic GPS, Sundays on CNN.
Explore Africa with CNN, where 54 nations create the fabric of this rich continent. This is really complex. Discover business, economic trends. Feeling you're seeing something here. Nature and culture. The stories shaping Africa today.
Exclusive contents around the world. The energy is amazing. Feels so good to be here. It's a European marketplace that's constantly evolving.
We're all in this together.
From the energy sector, wow,
It sounds very good. It really doesn't fascinate.
to technology,
This is the next generation of computing.
wow, and the latest in luxury.
What we're doing is world class.
Are you more drawn to classics? I'm a classic girl. I'm Anna Stewart, and I'm Claire Sebastian. Join us for Marketplace Europe.
This weekend on CNN. This is CNN. More people get news from CNN than any other news source.
Breaking news: Kim Jong-un and Vladimir Putin signing into law a major defense agreement. Coming as now 11,000 North Korean troops are on the ground in Russia's first region, fighting Ukraine. And as Trump prepares to return to the White House, he's promising to end that war. What does it mean in Russia? Fred is out front tonight. He is in Moscow.
Russian state TV feasting on Donald Trump's election victory. The main talk program facing a social media post by Donald Trump's son, Donald Trump Jr., mocking Ukraine's president, Volodymyr Zelensky, saying his so-called allowance out. The message from Russian media: Ukraine is concerned U.S. aid could dry up and Russia will war. On Moscow Street, optimism about the incoming administration in Washington. Since the war in Ukraine, relations between Moscow and Washington have continued to plummet to new lows. Now, many people here hope and believe that a new Trump presidency could bring those relations back on track. Вы думаете, что отношения с Россией улучшают?
Ну, в целом, наверное, по последнему периоду власти Дональда Трампа каких-то разногласий не было, и поэтому я думаю, что в данный момент он регулирует все какие-либо конфликты, если они имеются, и все наладится.
Но я не думаю, что он сможет напрямую закончить войну, однако я чувствую, что он может сделать некоторые ультиматумы обеим сторонам, что определенно приблизит окончание этого конфликта.
Да, тоже сказал, что он хочет закончить войну в Украине.
Мы все хотим. Мы все хотим этого, очень хотим. Чтобы закончилась война, потому что это невозможно. Вот. И ну, надеюсь, что мы придем к общему пониманию.
But what could a so-called mutual understanding look like? This video from Ukraine's military purported to show Kiev's forces hitting Russian troops in the Kursk region of Russia, where the Ukrainians say they are now facing off against nearly 50,000 Russian and also North Korean troops. The Ukrainians acknowledge they probably wouldn't be able to sustain their operations without U.S. military. Donald Trump has in the past insinuated he might cut altogether in an effort he claims to end the war.
They've died. Russians and Ukrainians are on this outside. And I'll have that done. I'll have that done in 24 hours. Take over, Elon.
Ukrainian source now saying Trump was joined by billionaire Elon Musk on a recent phone call with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Musk, who, while helping Ukraine by providing Starlink satellite internet, has in the past also criticized military aid for Ukraine, ridiculing Zelensky in posts on his platform X. The Kremlin is vehemently denying Washington Post reporting, claiming a Trump-Putin phone call has already happened. Still, Vladimir Putin openly praising the president-elect's stance on Ukraine and on Russia. What was said concerning the desire to restore relations with Russia to help end the Ukrainian crisis, in my opinion, seems to be at least worthy of attention, he said. The incoming Trump administration certainly has the attention of many in Russia and is voting for improved relations with the U.S. and even possible sanctions relief. And Aaron, the vibe that we're getting as we're on the ground here in Moscow is that for many Russians, there is still a lot of uncertainty about what the Trump presidency could bring. But there's also a lot of hope among Russians that the war in Ukraine could end in a not too distant future and that it could end on terms very favorable for Russia.
All right, Fred, thank you very much. For some context here, with more Russians dying per day now than perhaps any time during the Ukrainian war. For now, Ian Bremmer, renowned global affairs analyst and founder of the Eurasia Group and G0 Media. So, Ian, I'm so glad we had a chance to talk to you today. And I definitely want to hear your excellent on your thoughts on all of this. We just heard people praising Trump's views on the war. And I guess there's a very basic question. Does people think he's going to get everything he wants in Ukraine with Trump as president?
Everything sounds like an overstatement, but he certainly thinks he's in a far better position than he was with Biden or than he would have been with Harris for a couple of reasons. First, Trump and J.D. Vance have consistently campaigned on wanting to end the war. Yeah. And Putin is in a position to deliver that, which means he can drive a harder bargain, especially because the Iranians are on the back foot. Also, we now have members of the European Union that are coming out more strongly and saying we got to stop providing aid. We've had that from Orban. You've just seen it from Fico, who runs Slovakia, just in the last couple of hours. You wouldn't have seen that before Trump won the presidency. So right now, Putin understands that he has the ability maybe to drive a wedge in Europe and start to get some normalization of relations from countries that consider him a pariah. Keep in mind, this is only a G7 policy. Only a couple of weeks ago, you'll remember, Aaron, that in Russia, in Kazan, Putin was hosting pretty much every major head of state from the non-advanced industrial democracies, the leaders of the BRICS. It's not like he's isolated globally, but now with Trump, he's not even isolated from the United States. That's a very big change for the Kremlin.
I guess, and that's the thing. So you've got him having this meeting, right, with the BRICS. So Russia, China, and many other countries as part of that now. And he's talking about a multipolar world, right? His entire premise is that he wants to decline the West. He says decline the West, decline the United States, right? That is cool. So is that something that you think Trump is actually going to continue to go along with?
I don't think Trump sees it that way.
Trump says it though. Trump says, I want this to go line of the West.
Yes, but let's keep in mind, the United States is certainly the most powerful country in the world today. But its relationship with its allies, in many cases, much more strained. Also, or asymmetrical in favor of the U.S. The U.S. economy is a much larger share of the G7 than it has been over the past decade. So if you're Trump, you're thinking to yourself, well, I don't need my allies the way I used to. What I want is to get things that I want individually with all countries around the world in bilateral relations. And I'm going to do that with the Russians. I'll do it with the North Koreans. I'll do it the hard way with the Iranians. I'll show them the fist. And I'm going to do it with my allies too. So it's a much more, so in other words, Trump, the idea that Trump is going to maintain a U.S.-led order that is based on common values and multilateral alliances, that's not Trump's interest, and that happens to align nicely with Putin saying this is a more multipolar world.
Well, Ian, thank you very much. There's a lot to think about. Thank you. And next, John Avalon is back. He's back out front for his tough race for Congress. And he'll tell you why he was wrong about Trump and something he saw on the campaign trail that he feels is really important for him here. Plus, China now targeting bicyclists who claim that they are just on an evening ride to get dumplings. But Beijing and the dumplings did something much more sinister and wait till you see what they're doing.
When I mentor young girls, the biggest piece of advice I give them is don't be afraid. People might say that girls don't belong, you're too weak, too delicate, always remember why. You have nothing to lose if you dream from hard. And you'll achieve something you didn't think was possible.
Tomorrow Transformed, in association with NX Nippon Express.
He's taken on more sports since her amputation than most of us do in a lifetime. Thanks to a surgery pioneered at Brigham and Women's Hospital in Boston, doctors preserved much more of her muscle and nerve endings than operations in the past. It's allowed her to step into the futuristic prosthetics here at the Biomechatronics Lab at MIT.
So Amy, when she moves that planet, she actually feels it as a natural movement sensation. So we effectively close the loop between the brain, the prosthesis, and that.
This makes me feel whole and being able to do everything so naturally that I was able to try it. So it's definitely in the same place.
Logistics is not merely the movement of goods. It is a process of realizing the customer's vision through the creation of value and the optimization of the supply chain. We find the best way for our customers. We find the way. This is our motto. Nippon Express was established in Japan in 1937, and now we operate on a global scale. In 2024, we welcomed cargo partner in Austria into the NX. Together, we are accelerating NX expansion in Europe and creating stronger connections within Asia. Daily transporting thousands of cargoes on time is a given. We use sustainable end-to-end solutions at the highest level of logistic quality. Building trust with our customers is ingrained in our culture and history.
Like Richard Quest, I love traveling the world. Broaden the mind, open the heart, and I'm not done yet. It's time to embrace new adventures. Just turn around and there it was. Find the fun. That is more beautiful than the real thing. And seize the moments in this world of wonder. Somebody on CNN, in association with Turkish Airlines.
Tonight, the Joe Rogan election. Bernie Sanders, who was endorsed by Joe Rogan in 2020. Yes, you heard me correctly. Rogan endorsed Bernie Sanders in 2020 and endorsed Trump this time, criticizing Kamala Harris and Democrats for not winning the election.
Look, you could have an argument or you could disagree. That's the argument that it's hard to be.
Justice Rogan reveals exactly what went on behind the scenes that led to Vice President Kamala Harris turning down an interview that would have reached 50 million people.
I bet there's a person in there. I bet I get to the person. Yeah. I wanted to find that person. I don't want to hear all speeches. I don't want to hear. I was raised middle class. I don't want to hear anything. She's a roller skater. You know that? I would love to find out. Yeah. I would love to talk to her about all kinds of. I literally said, because there was a few restrictions and things they didn't want to talk about. But I said, I don't give a f***. I will get her in. Whatever you want to talk about. And they want to know if I edit it. Yeah, I'm not doing it.
Back out front tonight, former political speechwriter, CNN political analyst John Avlon. He lost his race on Tuesday for New York's first congressional district on Eastern Long Island. He also didn't think Donald Trump would win again, and he is not alone. So I do want to talk about John Rogan. John Rogan, and every single day. We left it all on the table. So they but we talked about some of the things that we saw. And one of the things I know that you write about that I think will be that really stood out to me when I talked to you today is the enthusiasm that Democratic voters had in a conservative district for the American flag.
Absolutely. And this is the kind of issue. To build a broad patriotic coalition within America.
I mean, that the flag had become something that was sort of significant. That was a sign, right? It's something that you saw. So Donald Trump goes on his podcast for his election. For that interview, 80% of those get some Harris turned about that. Do you think that I mean, I know Joe Rogan was the penultimate day of the whole election, right? Joe Rogan was the leading but the role of the decision to do that.
I think they did, and I think it's about two things. First of all, Democrats need to get on two things. I think there's a sense sometimes tiptoeing around the fear of offending somebody or danger of going in a difficult environment, which Rogan did. And it's about the authenticity of Joe has an open, honest debate and disagreement, which I think people reward. I think the other thing this election shows that frankly, the role of influencers in sort of decentralized right-wing ecosystem has a lot more power even than grounding in terms of people's heads. And that's something I definitely saw on the campaign as well. The entire media environment is different, and I think besides, journalistic outfits that care about fairness find themselves getting played by the ref. Right? They fall in sort of fake fairness that I think can be a real problem to have honest conversations about the real stakes of things.
So it's fascinating to say that because in this time of age, right, there was such a confidence in their screens around it, and to extent his lack of confidence, I wish it worked anywhere. It was because they were worried about outsourcing it because it was so great, and then suddenly you see the power of how much that actually meant. But when you're out there every single day, and you have written so eloquently, and you've been in politics as a Republican, you've been a independent, as a Democrat now, all of it. What did you see day in and day out? You look at this election and see it's up. The flag, I think, was one.
Yeah.
There were others.
I think fundamentally, the fact that the middle class squeeze has been going on for decades is what's driving the division and anger in our politics. Folks feel like they can work hard, play by the rules, and still not get ahead. And I think that's the fundamental of the economy. This is why the core of our campaign was we need to rebuild the middle of our politics, the middle of our economy, because those two things are connected. It's not a coincidence that we're hauling out the middle of our politics at the same time we're hauling out the middle of our economy. And until we really rebuild the middle class in America, I don't know that we're going to have the ballast to withstand these sort of swings. But that needs to be job number one, it seems to me. And delivered for people. If people are economically secure, personally safe, everything else is secondary.
And yet you leave this with all the exhaustion that you went through.
Yes. Look, first of all, it's like Abraham Lincoln, a popular confidence is I don't see the point of doing anything else. But also because this listening to people, learning and meeting people where they are, doesn't give me the sense that when you talk to Trump, really disagree about the sources of division and dysfunction. They want to see the country united. Now, I think we may be headed for a dark time where people forget what they didn't necessarily expect. But I believe the durability of the American experience is absolutely intact. We just need to lean into that.
We'll leave it on that message. So we are thrilled to have you back. I know circumstances, which is great. Right? That's why China is trying to stop tens of thousands of young people from riding their bikes.
Inside Africa. Go inside the inventive minds, evolving places, and creative trends of the Africa you need to know now. 3 groundbreaking architects are reshaping the industry and inspiring a new wave of African design.
Africa is a place of opportunities, and we have to be strong enough to see them.
Inside Africa on CNN, in association with Zenbank.
It's a European marketplace that's constantly evolving.
We're all in this together.
From the energy sector,
Really business customers.
technology,
This is the next generation of computing.
wow, and the latest in luxury.
What do they do is world class.
Are you more drawn to classic, our plastic world? I'm Anna Stewart, and I'm Claire Sebastian. Join us for Marketplace Europe.
This weekend on CNN, on the next Living Golf, as the sport rises in popularity across the Middle East, women pros are staking their claim to finale.
This region is really supporting women's golf. They really believe it is a great product.
See how players are uplifting the next generation, not just in golf, but also in life.
For every walk that is done, we're donating one preventative checkup for women in Saudi Arabia.
Living Golf, only on CNN, in association with Golf Saudi.
This is CNN. More than a source.